Bociurkiw is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and a former spokesperson for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. He joins us now from Odessa, Ukraine. Michael, as always, great to see you. I want to start with those drone strikes in Kyiv overnight and early this morning. What more can you tell us about this latest assault?
Hi, Anna. Pretty bad. It seems now that every night Ukraine is under dozens of drone attacks, as well as ballistic missiles. In fact, not far from where I'm sitting right now, about 24 hours ago, a very powerful ballistic missile hit a densely populated residential area of Odessa. And then just a few hours ago, in the far west of Ukraine, closer to the Polish border, drones there struck critical infrastructure, which in Ukraine means usually energy and heating facilities. No power, no light, no heating. And the temperatures there are below 0 Celsius right now. So you can imagine what the civilians there are feeling right now.
Absolutely. And you can only assume that those attacks on infrastructure will only continue. Michael, the use and confirmation of US-made ATACMS in Kursk, is that making much of an impact? And are they running out of time in using them?
Well, of course, it's very welcome by the Zelensky administration because this is something they've been begging for a long, long time. However, there's some confusion on whether that geographical footprint that the Biden administration set for the Ukrainians, Kursk region only, is still valid. I think what the Ukrainians would really like to do is strike further, targeting those airfields, those launching pads where these drones and missiles come from. Because without doing that, Ukraine air defense systems just aren't robust enough to keep away those drones and missiles.
And is that likely to happen, that permission will be allowed to use ATACMS on those targets?
Yeah, I think so. I think it will be done quietly, and it's certainly something that is favored by the French, by the English, the builders of these missiles, because I think Ukrainians also feel they need to strike, for example, critical routes for the Russians, that Kerch Strait Bridge, where they bring military equipment from mainland Russia into Crimea.
Michael, we understand that ambassadors from NATO countries will meet Ukrainian diplomats in Brussels today. This, of course, is at the request of Ukraine. It's in response to the firing last week of an experimental intermediate-range ballistic missile at Dnipro. Ukraine is saying that it wants concrete and meaningful outcomes from NATO. I mean, is that likely?
Well, I think a lot of Ukrainians have given up on expecting much from NATO, but I think what you're seeing this week is absolutely incredible. What I mean by that is you have NATO, but you also have the G7 foreign ministers meeting yesterday and today in Italy. And word leaking out about their communique is that they're going to use very, very strong and specific language against China as an enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine, possibly threatening sanctions on China, and strong language too, Anna, about China reportedly giving Russia drone technology to further strike Ukraine. Last year, the language was very polite and light, but I think this year they realize they have to get stronger, especially before Mr. Trump gets in.
Michael, I now want to turn to the comments made by US podcaster Joe Rogan. As we know, a Trump supporter. He claimed that Joe Biden's decision to authorize the use of ATACMS was about to start World War III. Well, he has been accused of, quote, repeating Russian propaganda. That claim was made by former world heavyweight boxing champion Vladimir Klitschko. Let's first have a listen to what Klitschko had to say.
Putin's Russia is in trouble, so they want to scare you and people like you. His war was supposed to last 3 days. It has lasted 3 years, thanks to the heroism and sacrifice of us Ukrainians. So you're using the only weapon that Putin really intends to use, propaganda. And this weapon really weakens our democracies.
Michael, would you agree with Mr. Klitschko?
100%. He's right. Mr. Rogan is just parroting Kremlin propaganda lines, saying that we're nearing World War III. In fact, I think, a lot of the people that have spoken out about this are correct, is that, if anything, Ukraine has prevented the West from really feeling the impact of this war. And, you know, about Mr. Klitschko, I mean, this very hand has shaken the Klitschko brothers' hand, and that was in good times. And you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of the Klitschko brothers in a virtual boxing ring, I can tell you that. So what is interesting here, too, Anna, is that when these words were spoken by the podcaster, instead of Mr. Zelensky coming out, which he usually would be expected to do, it was Mr. Klitschko and also former Foreign Affairs Minister Dmytro Kuleba. Kuleba offered to sit down with Mr. Rogan as well and smoke cigars with him. And then Mr. Klitschko said, I'll meet you head to head on your show. So, you know, and it's interesting too, because the Klitschko brothers are very, very popular in Ukraine. In fact, there's not a good relationship between them and Mr. Zelensky. So it'd be curious to see how this is being greeted in the presidential administration.
Of course, and his brother being the mayor of Kyiv. Michael Bociurkiw, as always, a pleasure. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us from Odessa.
Thank you.
Well, as the United States